The concept of aliens has long captivated human imagination, blending science, speculation, and spirituality. Project Blue Beam, a conspiracy theory proposed by Canadian journalist Serge Monast in the 1990s, claims NASA and global elites planned to stage a fake alien invasion using advanced holographic technology to establish a new world order and a unified religion led by the Antichrist. The theory outlines four phases: undermining religions with fake archaeological discoveries, projecting holographic religious figures or alien invasions, using telepathic technology to manipulate thoughts, and creating global chaos to justify totalitarian control. Recent unexplained drone sightings in the US have reignited interest in this theory, with figures like Roseanne Barr and Alex Jones linking them to Project Blue Beam, though experts like Professor Vijay Kumar and Missy Cummings suggest these are likely misidentified aircraft or US operations, not evidence of a grand conspiracy. Some Christian perspectives interpret aliens not as extraterrestrials but as fallen angels, demonic entities described in biblical texts like Genesis 6 or Revelation, deceiving humanity in the end times. Proponents argue that supposed alien encounters align with descriptions of spiritual beings, citing their supernatural abilities and deceptive nature. They tie this to Project Bluebeam, suggesting it could be a tool to stage these fallen angel manifestations, fooling the world into accepting a false messiah. The truth remains elusive. Scientifically, no credible evidence supports extraterrestrial visits or Project Bluebeam's claims. The 2021 Pentagon UAP report documented unexplained aerial phenomena but offered no alien confirmation. Skeptics argue Monast's theory, possibly inspired by sci fi like Star Trek, lacks substantiation and thrives on fear and distrust. Spiritually, the fallen angel theory depends on faith based interpretations, unprovable by empirical means. The search for truth requires critical thinking, balancing open mindedness with skepticism, while acknowledging that human perception of the unknown is shaped by both evidence and belief. The concept of base reality and what happens when we die are deeply philosophical and scientific questions that intersect with metaphysics, consciousness studies, and various cultural beliefs. Below, I'll provide a concise overview of these topics based on current understanding, avoiding speculative or unverified claims. Base reality theory. Base reality refers to the fundamental layer of existence that is not simulated, virtual, or derived from another reality. The idea gained traction with philosopher Nick Bostrom's simulation hypothesis 2003, which posits three possibilities. 1. Advanced civilizations never reach the technological capacity to create realistic simulations of conscious beings. Advanced civilizations capable of creating such simulations choose not to for ethical or other reasons. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation, as the number of simulated realities would vastly outnumber the single base reality. Key points. Philosophical underpinnings. The hypothesis draws from the idea that consciousness could be substrate independent, i.e., so it could exist in a biological brain or a sufficiently advanced computer. If a civilization can simulate consciousness indistinguishable from real consciousness, we might be in such a simulation without knowing it. Thus, evidence and challenges. Aditya, there's no direct empirical evidence for or against the simulation hypothesis. It relies on probabilistic arguments and assumptions about technological progress. Critics argue it's untestable and akin to metaphysical speculation, while proponents suggest anomalies in physics, TGG. Quantum mechanics or the universe's apparent pixelation at the Planck scale might hint at a simulated framework. The implications. If we're in a simulation, base reality could be radically different, potentially with different physical laws or forms of existence. However, we have no way to access or verify the nature of base reality from within a potential simulation. Sunday, what happens when we die? The question of what happens after death is both a scientific and philosophical spiritual matter, with answers varying based on perspective. Shown scientific perspective. The biological cessation toward death is the permanent cessation of all biological functions, including brain activity. The consensus in neuroscience is that consciousness depends on brain function. Once the brain stops, e.g., due to oxygen deprivation, consciousness ceases. Current understanding is saying there's no scientific evidence for an afterlife soul or continuation of consciousness post death. Near death experiences, NDEs, are often reported, but studies suggest these are likely caused by neurological and chemical processes in a dying brain, e.g., release of endorphins, oxygen deprivation causing hallucinations. The open questions are then some scientists explore whether consciousness could persist in some form, e.g., through quantum effects or unknown mechanisms, but these ideas are speculative and lack empirical support. The philosophical and cultural perspectives. The materialist view. Consciousness is an emergent property of the brain and death ends it permanently. This aligns with atheism or agnosticism, spiritual religious views. Reincarnation found in Hinduism, Buddhism, and some other traditions where consciousness or a soul is reborn into a new body based on karma or spiritual progress. Deity afterlife. Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, often describe a soul continuing to a realm like heaven, hell, or purgatory based on moral conduct or divine judgment. Say pantheistic views. Some philosophies suggest consciousness merges with a universal consciousness or energy after death. Simulation hypothesis context. Shunte, if we're in a simulation, death could mean different things: the end of a simulated consciousness, a transfer to another simulation, or a return to base reality. This depends on the simulation's rules, which are unknowable. Simulation hypothesis and death. If we're in a simulation, death might be analogous to a program terminating or a character exiting a game. The self might cease, or data representing consciousness could be preserved, transferred, or reactivated elsewhere, e.g., in another simulation or base reality. However, this is purely speculative as we have no access to the simulation's architecture or purpose. Here, Bostrom's hypothesis doesn't directly address death but implies that our understanding of existence and thus death could be limited by our simulated context, integration of both concepts. Okay, base reality and death. If we're in base reality, death's nature depends on whether consciousness is purely physical, ending with brain death, or has a non physical component, e.g., a soul. If we're in a simulation, death might not be final in the sense of base reality but could involve a transition within or beyond the simulation.